sponsors: the Manitoba Association of Agricultural Societies, the Portage Mutual Insurance Company Limited, Manitoba Pool, teamwork you can trust, Simplot Soil Builders, bringing Earth's resources to life, Blights Portage Limited, dealers for Case International, and Mayer Equipment, your Case International dealer in Neepawa.
Hi there, I'm Pat Floon of the San Jose Sharks, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about safety on the farm. As you can see, the equipment that I'm wearing is used to protect myself when I'm on the ice, so it's always a good idea for you to protect yourself when you're around dangerous objects around the farm, and keep your hands clear of things that may be dangerous. As well, another big thing is when I'm playing hockey, it's important to listen to my coach and understand all the things that he's saying to me, and learn from him. And I think you should listen to your parents when you're on the farm, and listen what they have to say, and just be careful and stay safe. I grew up in a small town of Foxhorn in Manitoba, and on a grain farm. When I was younger, I was kind of what they would call a gopher, you know, running around to get tools when they needed it and stuff like that, and just keeping things clean and everything like that. Small little things that the man didn't have to worry about. You know, one of the biggest things I think is to listen to what people have to say about safety. You can never be too safe, I don't think. I think a lot of people take things for granted in machinery that they're going to work all on their own, but they don't have a brain, and they can't think that, geez, you know, I'm going to hurt somebody if something flies off here. So you got to be careful and just take care of yourself. I was cranking up an auger one time, and I was a little too small to be doing it, and the crank on the auger flipped back and hit me on the head and actually cut me open for, I think, 4 or 5 stitches. So it was a very learning experience, and I was fortunate that it didn't hurt me more. You can get hit with a stick in hockey too, just like you can get hit with an auger. But in the safety aspect, you know, as far as hockey goes, you have to be very cautious in some areas. You know, when you're playing the game of hockey, there's always times where it's a physical game and you can get hit from behind into the boards, and you just have to be aware of where the players are around you, just like on a farm where you have to be aware of things are.
Hard, like you think, oh, I see, it's other people, it's not us, and then all of a sudden, boom, when your closest relative gets in an accident.
Well, I couldn't really believe it because that it could happen to somebody like from around there. Like, it's kind of never happens to anybody that you know. It's just always people that you don't know.
They just have to really watch it because anybody can happen. It can happen to anybody at all.
It was about 3 years ago, and I was out at my friend's grandparents' place, and it was just after supper, about 6:30. And his brother and I decided to go take a little ride. There's a trail we usually take, and it's to get to the trees, you have to pass through a gate. And we were going along, and all of a sudden, my friend's brother stopped, and he said, "Stop." So I just figured I'd go through the gate, turn around, and come back and see what he wanted. But what I didn't know was the gate was closed, which it never had been, and I ran right into it. And I can still see, I did a flip in the air, and I got up, and all I kept thinking was I was going to die. So he got me on his four-wheeler, and I didn't know anything had happened. He told me to cover my neck, and I put my hand on my neck, and there was blood. And we went to the hospital. I had cut my neck. Well, I still have a scar on my neck, right here. I had 35 stitches, and I was very close to death. I just missed my jugular vein. I was a bit scared. I just kept on thinking I was going to die. I had nightmares just about every night for a couple weeks after, and then I forgot about it after a while.
Myself, I was driving an ATV just not too long ago, and I crashed it in the ditch. Okay, I had faulty brakes, but I was wearing a helmet, so nothing really happened to me. But I think, like, if you talk about experiences that have happened to you, other kids around your age, I think that'd really help. I have scars to show it too. I was scratched up for a while. Do it, wear one, because I'm glad I was, because if I wasn't, I probably would have had a broken jaw. Because it took, I had a jaw bar across the helmet, and it took about 4 chunks, big chunks out of the helmet, and it scratched the whole side of the helmet up, so. Because I crashed it right into the ditch. There was rocks and barbed wire fence, and so I was lucky.
You should always wear a helmet. Make sure your vehicle has brakes, and never drive anywhere where you're not sure about that train or anything that might be in front of you.
I'm always careful when I'm on the trailer because you never know what could happen.
It's not a toy. It's not something to fool around on and race, because you can get really hurt.
When it's time to put chemical into the sprayer, I help with that. Not much of the pouring part, but taking off lids and stuff like that. Mainly we watch wind conditions, which way the wind's blowing, so you don't get any harmful fumes. We use the air respirators, the gloves, coveralls, boots. I'm always told never to fool around with the chemicals. Do what you have to do and get it over with. Try to be as careful as possible with them. Get it, your eyes, on your skin, your clothing, you might not even know it. Sometime you might notice it and it's too late. But it's a good idea to wear all the protective clothing.
Well, my friend's uncle, he was spraying when he was younger, and he got sprayed, and now he can't walk or talk. He can't work anymore, and his wife has to take care of him.
I'm always thinking about wearing my goggles, because if something flies up and hits you in the eye, you could lose an eye, and you always have to make sure the drill bit is not cracked, or else something could break and hit you again. The saw, you always have to make sure you have the safety goggles on, and there's a safety protector on the saw in case sparks come flying up and catch on fire on your clothes, and in case a wheel doesn't accidentally lose grip and cause something else. And when you plug something in, you should always make sure you unplug it, so in case someone's leaning up against something, it doesn't start off and you can hurt yourself. If something goes on control, you should always know where the main breaker is to turn everything off. So I have to turn it off so the power is off. And plus, if there's a fire in the shop somewhere and you need to put it out quickly, you should always have a fire extinguisher on hand to put it out.
You gotta watch you don't have any gas and oil or anything nearby. Watch for rags. Don't grab the 2 cables at the same time. And it's a good thing to not have anybody else around too, unless, like, not any little kids, because flashes and that. Torch, you should have a tinted mask, because if you ever do it without, your eyes bug you right away. That's what I found anyway. You should wear gloves too, it's easier in the hands. The other boots are advisable. Cousin burned his foot this summer. Well, he was welding, he didn't have any socks on or nothing, he burned his foot. Got a spark in there, not real bad, but it can happen.
I told you to change into clothes that were proper for cutting grass.
Well, what's wrong with this?
You've got no shoes on. You've got nothing on your legs or anything. You could get hit by something.
That's more like it. Well, runners that are tied up, and long pants, like jeans, and well, just a t-shirt, like not a long t-shirt so it can catch on stuff. He's usually not like with me all the time, but well, if he is around, he just tell him to move over, go play over there instead of over here until I'm done cutting here. Probably tell him to not go too close to this fire or anything, just in case something flies out at him, and not to run in front of it or bug me or anything like that. Just to stay away.
He didn't have long pants or shoes or anything on. He slipped. And she was backing up, and she didn't see him, and she ran over his leg, and he had to get it amputated.
Make sure they wear the proper clothing, long pants and long shirt, and runners. Because if you have a hand mower, and you go across the yard, and if you haven't picked up the yard before, then there might be wire or stone, and it could go through the lawnmower and fling into your leg.
Well, it's very important to pay attention to what you're doing.
I wear this mask and have a set of earphones to wear to keep the noise down and keep dust out of your ears. I'd like to be able to hear when I'm 65 years old, like my grandpa. You can't really hear very well, so I guess I could keep my hearing.
The roadway, so I was jacking up the swather, and I was doing this with the jackal, and I didn't really know how to use it. That's probably a fairly important thing. And so I clicked the button up, and I kind of pushed the lever down to the bottom, and I didn't expect it would come up half as fast as it did, and because of all the weight on the swather, and it caught me right underneath the chin, and knocked this tooth right out. This is a fake one. And it certainly swelled my jaw up, and also cracked my jaw back here too.
Well, my dad taught me how to run the combine. I went with him lots and lots of times since I was little. I've always liked the farm and always wanted to be on the combine and drive the combine and run it and other machinery and stuff. And Dad just kept on telling me year after year what to do, and I listened and I remembered, and he said, "Now this year you're going to try it." So I listened. He told me what to do, and if something should happen, just look up the monitor, see what it is, and then shut everything down. And I called my dad on the radio, and I said, get him because he knows what he's doing. I don't quite know what to do if some other place on the combine breaks down, and plus I'm not strong enough to fix it and stuff. So I get my dad to come over and check everything out, and he checks everything out and makes sure everything's working properly before I start running it again. It's not bad to call your dad just in case if, well, it's better for him to do it because he knows what he's doing, and it's safer for you to stay in the combine or to stay off to the side and watch rather than to get you, even though you'd like to help and everything like that, you still better, you might end up for the worse instead of the better. And after he's found the problem and fixed it and everything, I make sure everybody's out of the way before I start up moving anything, or even before I even start up the combine or anything like that, because they could be in there and then it just takes 1 second, even less than that, before they could just get pulled away just like that. Be careful, keep your eye open all the time. Watch out for little things, because little things can turn out to be big things.
Well, I got in the truck and we were just fooling around, having fun, and I was at the back, at the back of the truck when the grain started, when my grandma tipped the truck up, and the grain started coming down really, really fast, because it does that when you tip the truck up a little more, and it just flowed right over my head, and I couldn't breathe. Robin pulled my hand and kept calling for Grandma, and finally she stopped tipping the box up, and she and Mom went up, and they were digging for my head to try and get it out of the grain so that I could breathe more. And when I got out, they just had to dig all the grain out of my mouth. That's even more dangerous if you're playing in grain bins, because maybe if the grain was over the door, and no one could even hear you if you're being smothered in there, and you'd probably die. I was having a lot of fun there, and I thought that nothing could go wrong, because I don't know, the grain, I didn't think that the grain could even do that.
Hazardous things in a baler is plugging. It says here, if plugging occurs, shut off engine, remove stuff like this and take it out. Quite often what will happen, the hay will be covered in there. They won't see the baler going, won't think a thing of it. They'll go in there, put their foot in, kick it a couple times, the hay will go and the leg will go in with it. Or they'll be down on their knees or something, pushing, the hay will go and they'll go in with it. The PTO shaft is secured by a chain onto your hitch, so the outside part cannot turn. It will come to a point where it will stop. And even though it is secure, you should never cross it. You should, if you have to work on PTO, on the PTO or anything, shut off your tractor and your PTO. Make sure all your shields are on, good and tight. Never stick your hands in here anywhere. Always make sure the sear shield is in there, because that's where all the big area is, where the most part where you can get your hands caught and stuff. These here are the chains where lots of accidents happen too. People oil the chains while the bale is running, and there's no reason why you can't oil it when it's off, but they'll be oiling the chain, have a loose leaf or something, catch on the chain, and wrap around there. Could just rip your shirt or it could take your arm. Hard to say, it's unpredictable. Another thing is to make sure all your shields are in place and closed up. Prevent injury too. This here is your tailgate. Never go under it. Are some things to prevent it or help. Not saying that it's for sure guaranteed going to hold the end gate up. It's a lever that shuts off your hydraulic cylinder so the gate will stay there. But if you are going to go under there, it'd be a good idea to put a couple poles up and down. So if the gate did happen to come down, you'd have a little bit of a safety. Lots of things can happen. It comes down, you could be standing there, get you in the legs, or anything in the head anywhere. What I was taught was if there's people around, don't operate. If there's people that just have to be around for a specific reason, there's 3 of them, you only see 2 of them, don't operate. If they're all 3 in your vision when you're operating, go ahead. But unless you can see where they are, what they're doing, don't operate. Never have a bale partly on the fork, always have it on all the way. Never lift real high in the air and make sure the bale's stable, like lifting onto a rack onto the top deck. Always make sure the bale's stable. Backing up and stuff with bales, you may not be looking back, so you make sure no one's around. You never ever leave the loader up in the air. Never ever leave a bale on the fork to begin with. And the loader's always on the ground. We're not using it.
Watch around the cows, because you never know when they may up and kick you, and always pat them on the ends so that they know that you're coming in, because if they don't know, you may spook them and they'll give you a nasty kick.
He was cleaning the pipelines, and he got some chemical splashed in his eye, and he had to go to Winnipeg for treatments and everything like that. Maybe if you mix the wrong chemicals together, you might get dangerous fumes, and that's not good. It's very dangerous.
I'll tell you what I was doing when it was going downhill, and it's always fun to run and try to catch it to get onto the back of the hitch like I did. And I got up like this, and I was leaning against the fender with my arm and my wrist just sliding like here. And I was talking away to my dad, and he's just driving, lifting bales off and back to the rack. And I was thinking, oh, what's the use of me being up here, so I'm going to get off and do something else. So I went to get off, and when I got off, my wrist slipped down, and it got caught in between here. And it snapped it in this action, I guess, or somewhere like that. I'm not too sure, it happened so fast. And I'm just fortunate that I didn't get my whole arm pulled out or pulled around the tire and flipped or something, because it would have been in worse condition than what happened.
I think little kids shouldn't be riding on tractors because they can easily fall off of the tractor and get run over. Usually Jody comes out with me when I go take lunch out to my dad, so I'm always hanging on to his hand because he likes to run to Dad before the tractor stop. So I always hang on to him and then make sure that Dad's out of the cab, and he usually walks to us instead of us going to him.
Well, basically, you wouldn't really want any riders on it, and while the tractor is running, you wouldn't want anybody beside the tractor, because the way it turns, you could squash someone pretty easily. Yeah, you have to keep a pretty safe distance away from them. You have to make sure where they are at all times.
When you're driving in the yard with a tractor, watch out for low hydro lines because you can ground a line. And you can get electrocuted if you jump out and touch the ground and you're standing on the tractor.
Like, you gotta watch the hydro lines and well, that it's pretty tall. Like, let's say go into a different field or farm, and like the hydro lines there are old and low. You have to watch them.
I was shoveling grain in a hopper, and a shovel, I didn't see where I was putting it, and it got too close, and it chewed a big piece of steel out of it. Imagine what it could do to your arm or your leg.
Mom told him to stay away from the dugout digging, so he went over by Dad, and he, the grain was going in so fast that it got stuck in the auger, so he thought that if he kicked it in there that it would come out, and he kicked it a couple times, and then there was still some left. So he kicked it again, and his shoe got caught, and it twisted his leg up to his knee. Well, yeah, up to his knee, and that came off from his knee down. And then now he wears an artificial leg from his knee down. If you don't know how to work something or don't know how the procedures go, just stay away from it.
Like, we have a shield on the auger, so it's pretty hard to get your hand caught in there, but you still have to be really careful to keep your hands out of the way.
Well, you should tell your dad to leave the guards on.
Don't step over the hopper. Don't stick your hand in there to dig the straw out, stuff like that. A lot of people do that. No person that got their arm chewed up doing that.
When Dad was unloading the truck, he left to go to the shed there, and then it got cut off. I stuck it in there, and then it got cut off.
He was in a grain auger. He lost it and pulled the shoulder blade and everything else. So they just have to really watch it because anybody can happen. It can happen to anybody at all.
My suggestion is to be any farmers, no matter how knowledgeable in the field or how experienced, always let somebody know where you're going to be working at the time.
My father and my grandfather always told me before I went to repair on something, they always reminded me about little things that can lead into big things to happen.
Some people like to copy their parents, and my parents are really good. I want to be just like them. And so they try to teach them because the parents wouldn't want their kids to die or end up in the hospital for a long time.
For me, my parents, well, they're parents and they don't want their children to get hurt, so they watch out for them and they explain to them what can be harmful. And they want you to be safe. Be careful always, listen to your parents.
Life's too valuable to waste without taking precautions.
Yeah, my uncle got his arm chewed off in the mail. He was checking a piece of farm equipment, and the baler caught his arm and got chewed off.
Approximately 10 years ago, I was greasing and cleaning a baler, and I put my hand in a
moving machine, a running machine, and my arm come off in part of a second right at the wristwatch. Well, the accident happened because I was careless. I thought I was in a hurry, and I didn't think it out properly in the beginning. It takes a lot longer to do most everything nowadays than before with only one arm. And it had quite an effect on the family too, the whole family. The accident only took 1 or 2 seconds to happen, but it certainly has changed our lifestyles and lives for many years to come, and will for many years to come.
In everyday life, even if I wasn't farming, everything is so much slower. I drive a half-ton, or it doesn't even matter what you drive. Where you say you're going to go to the store, you run to the store, well, you walk outside, you jump in your car and you go. Well, for me, I come outside and it's about a 5-minute process. Well, not that long, but a process getting into my vehicle. It turns a 5-minute quick trip to town into half an hour. People are in too much of a rush. They're always trying to hurry. Got to get that crop off, got to get this done. It's going to rain in a few hours, got to hurry. So they don't take the time. They're not careful enough. Probably one of the biggest things is to listen to the people who are telling you how to do something. You may think that they're getting on your case or giving you a hard time or whatever, but they're not. They're trying to protect you. Trying to protect you, trying to help you out. And I think that's a lot of the reason why parents who are teaching their kids to work on the farm are so overprotective, because they know there's so much that can happen. So probably the biggest thing is when your father or your uncle or whoever you're working for tells you, shut that thing off before you go and do something. Well, listen, don't just say,